Hello guys, welcome back to my channel and enjoy this fanfic part 1. Now let's start the fanfic. Hitaki Kakashi, the Junin sensei of Team 7, was leading his team consisting of Uchiha Sasuke, Haruno Sakura and Uzumaki Tayuya. Uchiha Sasuke was the last Uchiha in the village and had been rewarded with the title of Rookie of the Year when he graduated. Sasuke was in Kakashi's team for many reasons, but it was mainly due to him being an Uchiha. The belief was that in the future, Kakashi would be the best one to teach him how to activate his Sharingan, since he was the only one left in Konoha with any experience of how. This was because he had one himself. Kakashi's next student, Haruno Sakura, was also someone that had been rewarded with a flattering title, which was Kunoichi of the Year, the top female of all the graduates. She was a ninja that not only had considerable chakra control, she had also achieved top scores in all the written tests. If she were to apply herself in all endeavors, she would certainly be looking at a great future. Unfortunately, she was distracted. She had a tendency to focus an unhealthy amount of time on seeking a romantic relationship with Sasuke, more so than working on improving herself as a ninja. His last student was someone that Kakashi would have expected to be someone else. But with the way things had turned out, he was stuck with Konoha's newest Jinchuriki, too. Uzumaki Tayuya was a red-haired girl like most Uzumakis. By all accounts, she was hot-tempered and possessed a mouth that peppered almost every sentence with profanity. Tayuya was dead last of all the graduates, and the only reason she graduated was because she had managed to defeat Mizuki, a traitor who had tricked her into stealing the Forbidden Scrolls. Tayuya had been brought to Konoha almost 2.5 years ago and had been made the Jinchuriki of the Sanbi, the three-tailed turtle. That all happened half a year after Konoha's other Jinchuriki had disappeared from Konoha. Uzumaki Naruto, the Kyuubi Jinchuriki, had been gone from Konoha for 3 years and no one was aware of his whereabouts. Most of them thought he was dead. Uzumaki Tayuya and Uzumaki Naruto were not from the same family, but they were from the same clan, and that is why they share the name. Tayuya was treated in the same way Naruto had been as soon as it was known that she was also a Jinchuriki. Team 7 was currently leaving Konoha to go on their first C-ranked mission, which was to guard Tazuna, the bridge builder from Wave Country. It was 3 years ago that Uzumaki Naruto had been kidnapped by 2 Chunin-level ninja that had been paid to get him out of the village by someone in the civilian council. The councilman did not care if they killed him or not. He just wanted him gone. One of the 2 ninjas hated Naruto's guts and had no problem with killing him. The other one, however, was hating himself for what he was doing, but he was in desperate need of money. The ninja who hated Naruto's guts was none other than Mizuki, the ninja that Tayuya had dealt with almost 3 years later. The other Chunin was also an academy teacher by the name of Genji. Mizuki and Genji had dropped Naruto at a large tree at the border of Fire Country, and Mizuki had said that they should just end his life right there. Genji, feeling overwhelming shame for his actions, told Mizuki that there was no way in hell he was going to let him do that. He instead suggested a different course of action. Genji left Naruto there with a backpack filled with a few water skins and some energy bars. The 2 Chunins left soon after that, and that was when Naruto was found by a very old man that would train Naruto for a year before he passed away of old age. The old man's name, Itama Senju. Itama's last words to Naruto was to spread the name of Senju in the world once again. And that was what Naruto intended to do and had already done, as he had made quite a name for himself the 2 years after Itama had died. Naruto had made a name for himself as a bounty hunter, who hunted missing ninjas. Naruto himself was labeled a B-ranked ninja going by the name Senju. The reason for the name came from captured ninjas who reported that when they had asked for their captor's name, he had answered them, Senju, in a low whisper and a grinning smile. The bounties who were killed had very little to report. It would seem that Naruto's tendencies towards bifurcation or decapitation on resisting bounties leaves very little wiggle room for relaying information to others. Naruto's ninjutsu skills were not overly impressive. Currently he was only adept in the 3 academy jutsus, as well as Shunshin, Kage Bunshin and lastly Shuriken, Kunai Kage Bunshin. His knowledge in Genjutsu was also lacking, dispelling it was the limit of his abilities in this area. He had some insight into Fuinjutsu and was a decent practitioner of Taijutsu. But what Naruto excelled in was his swordsmanship, Kenjutsu. Naruto was also a ninja that relied heavily on speed and combined his speed with his Kenjutsu skills. Naruto was now 13 years old. He had been 10 years old when he was kidnapped from his village and left to die. Even though he lived 10 years in Konoha, the only thing he remembered from that place was the old man, Hokage, and the ramen stand, Ichiraku Ramen. He did not remember any of his old classmates or any other person from Konoha. Naruto was not stupid by any means, but he was forgetful. Further, one peculiar trait of his was that he had a particularly hard time seeing the difference between a boy and a girl. He had also picked up some other bad habits, especially for a 13-year-old. Worst among them was his immense love of alcohol, especially sake. Naruto currently wore dark blue pants with a dark blue t-shirt. His hair was golden blonde cut short into a messy hairstyles with visible spikes sticking out everywhere. 3 whiskers marked each of his cheeks. Not much had changed in his appearance other than his recent growth in height. Instead of being one of the shortest in height, he was now relatively tall for his age, though still shorter than the tallest one of the Rookie 9, Aburame Shino. Still, he was about as tall as the second tallest, Nara Shikamaru. Naruto was currently in Wave Country looking for his next bounty, one Momochi Zabuza. His target was an A- ranked missing nin. Zabuza would probably not be an easy bounty to acquire, but Naruto was in serious need of money as he had wasted all his cash on sake and ramen. Admittedly, it was worth it. Just as Naruto thought of all the sake and ramen he could buy once he had cashed in his new target, he had found the target. The target was not alone, however, as it seemed he was currently battling a squad from Konoha. Naruto saw 3 younger individuals that he thought were boys roughly his age. They were guarding an older-looking man dressed in Konoha-styled ninja gear. What a bunch of freaks, those boys have no style, Naruto thought to himself. He did not appreciate the tight-fitting clothes the 2 long-haired skinny boys wore, nor the duck hairstyle of the not-so-ridiculously clothed boy. He quickly shook off his distaste of the 3 retards and instead glared at who must be their Junin-sensei as he noticed the Sharingan in his right eye. An Uchiha, Naruto thought angrily as he sat hidden in a tree watching over the battle. What Naruto did not know was that his anger was causing some of the Kyuubi's chakra to leak from the seal, something that any Junin ninja would be able to sense. Down on the battlefield, Kakashi had just tried to calm his students by shouting, "Relax. I will not let any of my comrades die," when suddenly he noticed a sizable chakra source emanating from the surrounding forest. This malicious chakra felt familiar to him, however, as he had sensed it 13 years ago during the Kyuubi's attack. Zabuza had also sensed the peculiar chakra and asked, "More of your runts, Kakashi." Before Kakashi could answer, both Zabuza and Kakashi had jumped back to dodge a sudden incoming attack. The attacker had used Shunshin to appear right behind Kakashi, and his sword would have pierced Kakashi's heart if he had not moved. "Who are you?" Zabuza asked, since it was obvious he was not on Kakashi's side after all. Naruto raised an eyebrow at Zabuza and said, "You're just a bounty, shut your mouth." Zabuza, exasperated, glared at him. "What did you say?" Naruto ignored Zabuza for the moment and focused on Kakashi, who was standing there with his jaw dropped as he saw Naruto. "Prepare to die, Uchiha," Naruto said as he once again used Shunshin to quickly appear next to Kakashi and then drew his sword and attempted to slice Kakashi in half by performing the Kenjutsu technique, Shishi Sunsun, Draw and Resheath technique, Lion's Song. Something was certainly cut in half, but it was not Kakashi. The copy ninja had used the replacement technique to replace himself with wooden logs. Kuso. 3. Naruto swore and turned around to look at Kakashi, who was now standing in front of his students protectively. "You are one interesting brat, Zabuza asserted with a deep-sounding cackle. All of the Konoha ninjas could now see Naruto without a problem, and all of them recognized him somewhat, with the exception of Tayuya. Sasuke knew he had seen this guy somewhere, but he could not remember where. Sakura remembered him also. How could she not? This was the guy that was dead last in the academy and had a huge crush on her. He had, to Sakura's great annoyance, done everything to let everyone know about it. I told you to shut your mouth, bounty, Naruto snapped at Zabuza. So you are after my bounty? Get lost, kid, you are out of your league here, Zabuza retorted. Out of my league? Naruto asked with obvious disdain. With a laugh he answered, we will see about that, later. He then focused on Kakashi again. For now I will deal with the Uchiha, then I will deal with you, bounty. Kakashi got out of his shock and said, what is your name, stranger? Naruto grinned. Senju, he answered in a low voice that caused both Zabuza's and Kakashi's eyes to widen as they knew about the rumors of the bounty hunter with that name. No, Kakashi said, your real name. Naruto ignored him and bit his thumb, chanting, Kuchio's no jutsu. Summoning technique. The technique summoned a large purple toad. Naruto jumped up on its back. Naruto boy, the toad asked while looking around trying to find him. The toad had not noticed him jumping up on his back. Damn it. Don't call me that. Naruto yelled and stomped on the toad's back. Sorry for my clumsiness, the toad said, embarrassed, and held up a wooden barrel that was almost as big as Naruto himself. I have brought a barrel of sake that we can share. Stop it, Gameken. Naruto yelled with a red face. You are embarrassing me in front of my bounty and the Uchiha. Forgive me, Gameken said as he noticed that there were others around. Gameken, you let my bounty get away. Naruto cried anime tears and stomped on the toad's back again. Gameken looked ashamed of himself. Forgive me for my clumsiness. Don't mind. Just help me kill that Uchiha over there. Naruto said and pointed at Kakashi. That is Hatake Kakashi. He's not an Uchiha, Gameken said. You know him? Naruto asked. Yeah, somewhat. I might be wrong though, Gameken said and squinted his toad eyes. No, that is him. Explain. Naruto demanded with his eyebrow twitching. I have fought alongside him before. He is a student of our former summoner, your old man, Gameken said before he face-palmed. I shouldn't have said that, forgive me for my clumsiness. He's a student of my useless old man. Naruto asked. Gameken whistled a bit and said, I don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, I am leaving. Take this barrel, it is a gift from Boss Bunta. And disappeared in a puff of smoke. Team 7 during all that had their own conversation. Who is that? I recognize him somewhat, but I am not sure if it is who I think it is, Sakura said. The freak seems to have a problem with you face, Tayuya said to Sasuke. He is no match for an Uchiha, Sasuke answered. Kakashi in the meantime was sweat dropping as he saw Naruto and the toad and their antics. One moment he is attacking me and the next he is arguing with a toad summon who only Jiraiya should be able to summon. As the toad disappeared, Kakashi figured it was safe to speak with Naruto. You are Uzumaki Naruto, correct? Tayuya's eyes widened as she heard that name. Was this another Uzumaki? The clan was supposed to be extinct. Naruto looked at Kakashi. What is it to you? Could you answer the question? Kakashi asked with a sigh. Only if you answer my question first, Naruto answered. Okay. Ask away. Naruto walked up to them and started pointing at Kakashi's team. Explain to me why your team is full of misfits. Hey. Sakura yelled. Tayuya glared at him. Loser. Kakashi giggled since there was someone else that saw ways the same thing he did. Then he asked, what do you mean by that? See, these boys are all weird and unmanly and have long hair. Naruto started as he pointed at them, and that guy has a duck ass for a haircut. By now everyone in Team 7 was glaring at him and readying themselves to attack him with the exception of Kakashi, who was enjoying every second. Kakashi nodded. You are correct, however 2 of them are girls, not boys. Naruto's jaw dropped. Girls? You mean they are women? Yes. Naruto snorted and said. ugly, and walked away. I have seen women and they all have those big testicles hanging out of their chests. Your women seems to lack these. I will beat you to a pulp you er. Tayuya yelled and charged Naruto. Kuchio's no jutsu. Naruto yelled and summoned another large toad. This toad was not as big as Gameken but still big enough for Naruto to stand on. The toad used its tongue to trip Tayuya, causing her to fall down on the ground. Naruto jumped off the toad and walked over to Tayuya and started removing his pants and said, "Where are my manners? I have been taught to treat women as flowers, allow me to water you." As soon as Naruto finished that sentence, Kakashi had grabbed him and most likely saved his life. "Hey, what's the deal, you fake Uchiha? You and me need to have a little talk," Kakashi said with a glare. "What talk?" "The talk." So due to Kakashi having to explain some things to Naruto such as the difference between a boy and a girl and how to properly treat a lady, Team 7's travel had been delayed for another hour. "If it turns out you have lied to me, Hitaken Kakanishi, I will kill you," Naruto said after he had finished listening to the nonsense Kakashi had told him. "I assure everything I have told you is the truth," Kakashi said with an eye smile. "Say Naruto, would you like to join us for this mission? There is a big chance Zabuza would turn up once again." Naruto's eyes turned into dollar signs. "The bounty. Of course I will join you." "Great. Also my name is Kakashi, not Kakanishi," Kakashi said as they walked back to the others who seemed to be close to falling asleep. "Whatever you say, Kakakin. Are you messing with me? Speak sense." The others' sweat dropped as they had overheard the last part of their conversation. Seeing as Naruto had still not left, Sakura decided to ask, "What is he still doing here?" While she pointed at Naruto. "He is going to help us out on this mission and after that he might go with us back to Konoha," Kakashi said with his famous eye smile. "I ain't going to Konoha, fake Uchiha," Naruto said. "If you do a good job on this mission and then accompany us back to Konoha, I will treat you to as much ramen as you want at Ichiraku Ramen," Kakashi whispered to Naruto, and when he heard that he started drooling and said, "Fine, I will go with you to the ramen." Kakashi nodded. "Good," while thinking, "Seems like Naruto haven't changed that much after all. Anyway, I think introductions are in order. I am Hitaki Kakashi, Junin Sensei of Team 7 Inches." He then pointed at Tazuna. "This is Tazuna, our client. Please introduce yourself, my cute little Genins." Sasuke glared at Kakashi. "I am Uchi." He was interrupted by Kakashi putting a hand in front of his mouth. As he was saying his name is Haruno Sasuke, he then whispered to Sasuke in a way to try to calm him down since Sasuke did not like the name Kakashi had chosen for him. "Just go with it for now. If he finds out you're an Uchiha, he will try to kill you." Sasuke snorted. As if he could. Kakashi sighed and nudged Sakura, who smiled weakly. "I am Haruno Sakura." Tayuya was the last one and she yelled, "I am Uzumaki Tayuya, remember it you er." Naruto jumped back and cleared his ear and hoped he had not gone deaf after that yell. He then whispered, "Senju." Kakashi sighed. "Your real name?" "Senju." "Come on. Senju. His name is Uzumaki Naruto, a former Konoha citizen, and like I said earlier, he will accompany us for the rest of this mission," Kakashi said as he figured Naruto would not give in. "Alright team, let us head out, lead the way Tazuna-san." Finally, Tazuna said, and the group started walking towards Tazuna's home. As soon as they started walking, Kakashi gave Naruto a small red book titled, Ika Ika Paradise, Volume 1 foot and told him to read it. 3 hours later, the group had finally arrived at Tazuna's home. While walking there for the last 3 hours, Team 7 had talked among themselves while staring at Kakashi and Naruto with disgust due to the sounds and expressions they were making. This was because of Kakashi's blushing and giggling caused by the book he was reading and the sounds coming from Naruto. "Well, this is it," Tazuna said as he opened the door. "Tsunami, Inari, I'm back." Tazuna shouted. Soon after that, a kid ran up to Tazuna and hugged him while a woman walked towards them smiling. The woman was in her 20s and had long dark blue hair. Tazuna introduced his family to Team 7 while Naruto just stood there staring at Tsunami for a while before he walked up to her and grabbed her hand. I see you are the definition of beauty, Naruto said and kissed the top of her hand. Oh my, Tsuami said and giggled, aren't you sweet? After Naruto had unknowingly flirted a bit with Tsunami, the group had been led into the house and were now eating in Tazuna's kitchen. Tsunami had prepared dinner that everyone could enjoy as soon as they arrived. After eating, Naruto had noticed the stares everyone were giving him, especially to Yuya, that had been glaring at him ever since the whole watering ordeal. What do you want? Naruto asked as he was kind of tired of her glaring. Your name is Uzumaki Naruto, right? Why the have I been told there are no other Uzumaki when you are a former Konoha citizen? To Yuya asked. Senju, Naruto whispered and then stood up and said, I need to take piss, and walked towards the bathroom. As soon as Naruto left the kitchen, they heard someone knocking on the door from outside. Kakashi went and opened the door and was greeted by a small toad that gave him small piece of paper before disappearing in a puff of smoke. On the paper it said, the old geezer is catching up but you are still a few days ahead of him. Kakashi gave the paper to Naruto as soon as he finished up in the bathroom, and when he saw it he told them, well, you should have noticed at least, Katashi. That you are a clone? Kakashi asked in a bored tone. Yeah, I will dispel soon, Naruto said as he walked towards the door and opened it. He turned around and said, I will come back in a week. If you guys are still around, I will contact you somehow. Kakashi sighed and asked, why in a week? Because there is someone who is tracking me and has been doing so for over a year. He looked depressed as he continued, he is someone the old toad told me to call. Ero Sennin, Naruto's clone was about to dispel, but before it did he said, I will never forgive him. And disappeared in a puff of smoke. A few minutes after Naruto was gone, to Yuya said what everyone wanted to ask, what the is going on? How does that know Ero Sennin? Ma. Naruto and an old friend is just having some problems, it will be fine, don't worry about it, Kakashi said and I smiled. He said Ero Sennin right? To Yuya yelled, that is what I called that old pervert who brought me to Konoha 3 years ago. What? Who? Sakura asked. Kakashi I smiled and said, yeah, that's him, probably. How does the freak know Ero Sennin? To Yuya asked with a yell. Well, Kakashi began saying as he had a pretty good idea to what was going on, they are just having some family problems. What? To Yuya yelled. Hey, who is Ero Sennin? Sakura asked. Ahaha. Do you know who Jiraiya of the Sannin is? Kakashi asked. Of course, he is the teammate of Tsunade-sama and Orochimaru the traitor, Sakura answered like a good bookworm. Kakashi I smiled once again and said, yeah, well, they are family. Kind of. With Naruto. Ero Sennin, I will kill you for what you did someday. Naruto thought as he ran at top speed, trying to get as far away from Wave Country as possible using chakra to boost his speed. He remembered his first meeting with Jiraiya as he ran. Flashback. In a small village where travelers would often stop by to either enjoy the hot springs or the casinos was where Naruto had ended up and decided to rest. He was going to try out one of those hot springs when he saw an old man with long white hair sitting in a tree above one of the springs. The old man was giggling and blushing and writing down stuff in small notebook. This had Naruto curious, so he climbed the tree and sat down next to the old man. The first thing Naruto saw was 2 grown-up men that was currently taking a bath in the hot springs. He quickly noticed that these men were odd. They both had 2 big testicles hanging out of their chests and pretty faces. Something like this was not normal and he was curious to figure out what was wrong with them. The old man finally spoke to him, what do you want, brat? Get lost. Naruto ignored that and instead pointed at the 2 women and asked, what are those things? Huh, Jiraiya said staring at the boy before looking back at the women, those are the finest titties in the elemental nations. Jiraiya then laughed in the way of the pervert, if Suheim found out about this she would kill me. Suheim. Titties. Naruto asked as he wrote it down since he planned to go over all the details later and figure this out. It seemed like that perverted laugh of Jiraiya's had gotten the attention of the two women. Both of them had now jumped out of the springs and stood under the tree looking up at Naruto, only wearing white towels. Jiraiya of course had quickly disappeared as soon as he noticed any movement within the springs. The next thing to happen was Naruto getting beaten up for 5 minutes by the old man with the big testicles and long blonde hair. Tsunade-sama, I think that's enough, Shizune said, feeling bad for the kid. Tsunade growled, if I don't do this he will never learn. Perverts never do. Man, stop it. Please, Naruto pleaded. Tsunade gawked at him. Man, did you call me man? While Shizune held a hand in front of her mouth in amusement. Naruto stood up and nodded. Yeah, what about it? Also, what is with those testicles hanging out of your chest? I have never seen those. After Naruto noticed this, he quickly had to dodge a superhuman punch by using his speed to quickly jump into the tree again. I am a woman, you retarded brat. Tsunade yelled as Naruto disappeared in a shunshin. I see. Naruto thought and wrote down what he just found out. Women are pretty and have testicles hanging out of their chests. They are also angry for no reason and does not appreciate being asked questions regarding their testicles. Naruto had managed to escape Tsuhime's wrath, but he did not get away without injuries. Her punches hurt like hell and he had bruises all over his body. He decided to get revenge on the one responsible for this, the old man that was in the tree earlier. He did that by stealing a scroll from him while he slept. The scroll turned out to be the Toad Summoning Contract scroll, which Naruto later signed. Ever since that night, Jiraiya has chased him all over the elemental nations. Jiraiya had successfully captured him quite a few times, but every time he did, Naruto had just disappeared the same night. Every time they met, they would fight at first and end with either Naruto escaping or Jiraiya capturing him and Naruto escaping later the same night. And that is how Naruto became a Toad Summoner. A week had now passed since Naruto's clone had left Team 7. During the week, Kakashi had trained his students in a way to prepare them for the upcoming fight with Zabuza. His students had learned the tree walking technique, a basic chakra control exercise. He had also trained his students one-on-one with a shadow clone. Meanwhile, the other two students and himself would be guarding Tazuna while he worked on the bridge. Kakashi had taught Sasuke some fire jutsus and sparred with him. He enjoyed sparring with Sasuke especially during the week because of him being so upset after Kakashi had told Naruto that Sasuke's name was Haruno Sasuke. It hurt his pride as an Uchiha a lot. Sakura had been taught a few basic genjutsus and they had also sparred, even if it didn't last very long when they did. Kakashi knew that Sakura had a lot of potential if she just applied herself instead of focusing on boys and love. Tayuya and Kakashi had mostly sparred in a way to improve her taijutsu since that was her weakest point. Kakashi and Tayuya had also gone over a few tactics she would use in a fight. Kakashi was impressed by Tayuya's mind, as some of them were really clever and could catch even Chunin-level ninja off guard. Well, he was not too surprised since she had defeated a Chunin already, Mizuki. But that was what happened during the past week. Right now Kakashi was busy fighting Zabuza on the big bridge Tazuna and his employees had built. Tayuya and Sasuke was stuck inside an ice dome created by Zabuza's apprentice, Haku. Meanwhile, Naruto was rescuing Tsunami and Inari from two samurai-looking men that worked for Gato. They looked like maybe they could use a sword and give him a bit of a challenge, but Naruto was very disappointed after the battle since both of them had lost within seconds. Thanks, Inari said before looking at Naruto. Ah. He said and pointed at him. You are that weird guy from 1 week ago. Naruto nodded. Yes, I had to make sure my girlfriend was alright after all. Girlfriend? Inari asked. Yeah, Naruto said as he lifted the unconscious woman and carried her bridal style. Wait, does that mean that you are my new Otou-san, dad? Inari asked with wide eyes. Naruto nodded. That is so, and they made their way into the house. But you don't look much older than the Oni-chans and Oni-chan that is protecting my grandpa, Inari said. Naruto said in a serious voice, age doesn't matter. I learned that this week. And thought back on his meeting with a few old friends from Konoha. Flashback. 4 days ago. In a small village in Fire Country, Asuma and his students were going to deliver an item to a client. Asuma and his students that made up Team 10 were doing their first C-rank mission. Why do we have to stay here for another day? Troublesome, Shikamaru whined. The client will arrive tomorrow. We will just rent some rooms for the night and stay here, Asuma said. Shikamaru, you dork. Ino yelled. Stop your yelling, troublesome woman. You are the reason why we had to do this troublesome mission in the first place, Shikamaru said inside and daydreamed of him laying somewhere looking up into the clouds. Stop fighting, you two, we should try to get along, Choji said, but he immediately regretted it when Ino glared at him. Shut up, Choji. That's the scene Naruto saw when he got closer to them as he walked towards them on the main road of the village. Those two. Could it be? Naruto thought as he stopped before them and said, Yo Shikataru, Chaji. Shikamaru raised an eyebrow, huh? Then he saw someone that he had not seen in 3 years and most thought to be dead. Naruto, is that you? Shikamaru asked in a bored tone. Naruto. Choji shouted with tears in his eyes and hugged Naruto. Naruto, you're alive. Naruto's eyes twitched as he forced Choji off of him. Stop that, Choija, we are all men here. It's Shikamaru and Choji. Troublesome blonde. Naruto nodded. That's right. Then he asked, who is the beard in that? Naruto narrowed his eyes when he saw Ino. Come on, I can figure this out. He walked closer and inspected her. This must be a. What are you staring at, you freak? Ino yelled and punched him in the face. Naruto quickly shook it off and went back to Shikamaru. Who is the beardman and that girl? Oh, that's Asuma sensei, Shikamaru said while lazily lifting his hand towards Asuma's direction, then doing the same at Ino's, and that's Ino. You two have met before, you know. Kusuma and Ino was it? Naruto asked with a grin. I see. And walked up to Ino and stuck his face into hers once again. My name is Namikaze Naruto, nice to meet ya. Namikaze? Ino asked as she tried to remember where she had heard that name before. Naruto nodded. Yeah, ever heard of Namikaze Minato? He's my dad. The Yondaime. Ino yelled. No way. It seems to be working. Naruto thought as he watched Ino go from being violent to. Well, he had no idea how to describe her now. During that Asuma had some interesting thoughts as he heard Naruto's name. Namikaze. No way, his name was Uzumaki Naruto, right? Could he be? He narrowed his eyes at Naruto. Damn, that Minato, did he really get together with Kushina Harem? I had such a big crush on her when I was younger. Damn him. If this is really Minato and Kushina's kid, then I must hide Kurenai Harem. Stay away from my Harem. Asuma yelled at Naruto, who backed away. That's creepy, sensei, Ino said with fear. Oh, sorry, old man, Naruto said, grinning. He then took out his notebook and read something and said, it was not my intention to ruining your game. He then jumped up into a tree. I must train. Farewell, old friends, and ran off into the forest surrounding the village. He found a nice open area that was close to the village where he could train at. Naruto had been working on a new move for some months now. He drew his sword and swung it hard into the air. Sanjiroku Pound Ho. The move was a long-ranged slash attack that cut everything in its way. Naruto cut down part of the forest with his attack, but he was still not happy with the result. One more time. Sanjiroku Pound Ho. After 5 hours of practicing his new move, he would move on to sparring. Kuchio's number jutsu. Naruto summoned a large toad. This toad was one of the strongest toads of Mount Myoboku. The toad was green teal and wore 2 large katanas on his back. What do you want now, fool? Gamahiro asked. Naruto chuckled. Hee, well, I heard that in some places they eat frogs. I would like to try it myself and make some frog soup. Gamahiro drew his swords. Insolent fool. I am a toad. I won't go easy on you this time. Bring it on. Naruto yelled and charged the frog. They fought for over 3 hours, and nearby in the forest someone was watching them. Gamahiro disappeared in a puff of smoke after Naruto had collapsed on the ground, most likely unconscious. Ino, who had been the one that had watched the spar, ran over to where Naruto was laying and sat down next to him. She sweat dropped as she noticed that he was still grinning even when he was unconscious. He's cute and no doubt very strong, she thought with a blush. Ino then carried Naruto back to the village and brought him to her room that they had rented. She couldn't just leave him out there in the forest after all. As she put him on a mattress on the floor next to her, she thought, is this really that idiot that had a crush on forehead girl? Sue. Naruto mumbled and then giggled. Huh, Ino thought and leaned down to listen. Sue Hime's tits. He giggled again before he turned around and started snoring. A red-faced Ino went to her bed and thought, he is still an idiot. Before she fell asleep as well. When Naruto woke up the next morning, the first thing he saw was Ino sleeping next to him on the mattress and hugging him. How did this happen? I don't remember going to sleep here. A light bulb lit above Naruto's head. I see this one of those blackout one-night stands. He slowly got out of Ino's grip and got out of the room and ran out of the village thinking, I have two girlfriends now. He also regretted leaving Ino like that, but he had a good reason. I will come back someday, Ino, but I can't face your boyfriend Asuma with my current skill. End flashback. When Naruto arrived at the bridge, there was not much for him to help with. Kakashi had already killed of Haku with his Chidori, and Zabuza had changed targets from Tazuna to Gato. That was something Naruto could not accept. So when Zabuza charged Gato and his underlings, Naruto got to Gato first and cut his body in half. Senju, Naruto said with a grin while Gato's underlings looked at him as if he was a demon before running away in panic. Bounty Hunter Senju, that was my kill, Zabuza said angrily. Naruto shook his head. My woman and her child has been abused by this dwarf, therefore this is rightfully my kill. Your woman? Zabuza asked. You're just a brat. Zabuza managed to say before he fell down on the ground as he could no longer stand due to amount of blood he had lost after Gato's underlings had pierced him with various weapons that are still stuck to his body. Naruto walked over to him and Zabuza whispered, do me a favor, will you? All right. Naruto without questioning what and swung his word towards Zabuza, who whispered, thanks, before the sword connected and Zabuza died. A moment after that, Inari and a lot of the village people arrived with gardening tools or whatever tool they could use as a weapon to help out in the battle. What they saw was Gato being dead, and that was enough for them to start celebrating. The only three people that had seen Gato and Zabuza die was Tazuna, Kakashi and Tayuya due to Sakura running over to where Sasuke was laying unconscious. Why did you do that? Tayuya asked as she glared at Naruto. Do what? Naruto asked. Kill them, like they were bugs. Tayuya yelled. Gato had to die. Zabuza asked me to kill him, Naruto answered in a calm tone. Why are you so upset about this anyway? You are a ninja, right? You did not have to kill them. Mama. Tayuya, calm down, Kakashi said in a serious tone as he walked over to her and put a hand on her shoulder. Naruto did nothing wrong. Tayuya kept yelling about how Naruto did not have to kill them, which led to Kakashi having to explain that this was what ninjas had to do and the hardships of being a ninja. Tayuya just shouted about how she would change things once she became Hokage while Naruto had left the scene. Something about Tayuya bothered him. It might had something to do with a dream he had recently. Naruto walked slowly towards Inari and the others when Tayuya yelled, where the are you going? To see my girlfriend, Naruto answered. Tayuya glared at him while Kakashi asked, you have a girlfriend? Naruto shook his head, I have two. Kakashi ran up to Naruto and hugged him, you are the student I always wanted. Naruto stared up into Kakashi's eyes, Katashi. Things got weird to the onlookers as they were now standing at a beach and then sun was going down. Naruto. Kakashi hugged him with tears falling from his eyes. Haramaki. Naruto. Takashi. Kai. Both Sakura and Tayuya said at the same time, trying to break the disgusting genjutsu. Naruto was confused himself as to what was happening. Why was Kakashi this happy with him having two girlfriends? He unsealed his gigantic sake barrel that he had received from Gamaken last week and stuck his head into it and chugged half of its contents. A funny sight for the others as Naruto's legs was the only thing sticking out of the barrel. It looked as if he was trying to drown himself. Naruto got out of the barrel and burped. That hit the spot. How is that possible? Kakashi thought as he saw Naruto drink half of the barrel's contents within a few seconds in that position. So anyway, fake Uchiha, Naruto started as he wobbled around. I have a problem with you. Oh really? What problem? Kakashi asked. Naruto grabbed an Ika book from his pocket and said, this book has been good to me, the information I have gotten from it has been correct so far. However, he now grabbed his sword and pointed it at Kakashi. The author of this book is no other than Ero Sennin. You tricked me, deceived me, and you cannot be trusted. That is not the only thing they are lying about. Naruto heard a deep cold inside his head. Thought we weren't talking, Naruto answered inwardly. We aren't. But know that they are keeping two secrets from you. You cannot trust them, Kurama said. Secrets, trust, and that is coming from you. I had no intention of deceiving you, Naruto, Kakashi said. No matter, Naruto said with his eyes closed, you shall die anyway. Naruto wobbled towards Kakashi swinging his sword. I assure you that I wasn't trying to trick you, Kakashi said. No excuses, just die, Naruto said, and Kakashi sighed as he prepared for another fight. Just as Naruto got close enough to try and hit Kakashi with his sword, he saw a tall man with long hair sneak up behind Naruto. Naruto's eyes widened for a second before he fell down on the ground unconscious as Jiraiya had hit him in the back of the head. Jiraiya-sama, Kakashi asked, surprised to see him here while Tayuya pointed at him with her eyes twitching. Ero Sennin. Yeah, it's me, the great Jiraiya. Get over it, Jiraiya said as threw Naruto over his shoulder. Where are you guys staying? This little bastard needs to rest, Jiraiya said, talking about Naruto. 10 hours later, Tazuna's house. Naruto woke up and the first thing he felt was pain. He had the worst headache, which means he must have partied hard last night. Considering there was a woman next to him in the bed that hugged him in her sleep, Naruto was convinced he had done something right last night. Tsunami had allowed Naruto to stay in her bed to look after him. She had not planned of falling asleep herself on the bed next to him. The hugging she did unconsciously in her sleep. When Naruto was about to sit up in the bed, Tsunami woke up and mumbled, Naruto-kun. And when she opened her eyes, the first thing she saw was some fat ugly creature sitting at the door staring at them. Eep! Tsunami screeched and hid under the cover. Naruto noticed the creature as well. It was a small toad, but it was very fat and ugly with lots of scars and long black hair. Frog, Naruto said as he stood up and walked over to the toad. Ribbit, the toad answered. Naruto scowled at the toad. Are you mocking me? Ribbit, the toad answered again, but this time Naruto was sure he saw the toad nodding. Tsunami, Naruto said as he turned around to look at her. Yes, she answered, no longer hiding under the covers. I am leaving, Naruto said with a sad look. I don't know if or when I will be back. What, why? Tsunami whined. The others are staying until the bridge is built, why aren't you? I am not one of them, Naruto said. I work solo and also right now I must get away from someone. Who? Him, Naruto said and pointed at the ugly fat toad. That thing? Tsunami asked. What? Naruto looked at the toad and sweat dropped. Well, that frog is not what it appears to be. Tsunami sighed. I understand, but can you do one thing before you leave? Yeah, sure. Anything, Naruto answered with a big grin. What? Tsunami asked Naruto, and what happened afterward? Had the toad disappear in a puff of smoke and Jiraiya appeared when the smoke cleared. Tsunami told Naruto, who was blushing, to make sure to visit her soon and to take her out on that date he had promised her. Naruto nodded and said his goodbyes before he jumped out the window and ran for it. Ero Sennin, you will pay for this, Naruto thought. Jiraiya had ruined what could have been a wonderful 1 or 2 weeks with Tsunami. He could have stayed and tried to endure Jiraiya being there, but the risk was too high. Jiraiya always wanted something from him, if it was not the summoning scroll, which Jiraiya had already taken back when Naruto was knocked out, it was something else like money, sake, and that last thing that Naruto kept forgetting. Naruto just wanted the pervert to leave him alone, he was trouble. Naruto did not get far from Tazuna's home before Jiraiya caught up to him. Naruto, wait! Jiraiya yelled. I knew it! Naruto spat. I knew you wouldn't let me leave, what the do you want? Jiraiya grinned. What you did in there? Having an older woman kiss you? Jiraiya had a perverted smile and giggled. You are the perfect choice, you must become my apprentice. I don't see how that. Naruto began but was interrupted when someone jumped down from the roof of Tazuna's house next to Jiraiya. If what you said is true, Jiraiya-sama, then Naruto is going to be my apprentice, Kakashi said, staring down Jiraiya, challenging him. Get lost, brat. Jiraiya said, looking at Kakashi with a disgusted expression. We real men were having a conversation. You are beginning to test my patience, Naruto said, glaring at them and reaching for a scroll to unseal his sword. Kakashi ignored Naruto and instead told Jiraiya, you can have all three of my students. But Naruto will become my apprentice. I told you to get lost, Jiraiya said, whipping his hand towards Kakashi as if he was trying to get rid of a fly. Just then two women from the town walked past the house minding their own business. They both started running and held their eyes from what they had just seen. Naruto had unsealed his sword and shunshined next to Jiraiya and Kakashi and cut of their belts, holding their pants up. After that he had ran as fast as he could and using shunshin after shunshin to get away from them, leaving them there in only their boxers. Well played, brat, Jiraiya mumbled, reaching for his pants. Kakashi did the same and asked Jiraiya, think we will see him in Konoha? Jiraiya sighed, no way. 3 days later, Konoha. Naruto was standing just outside one of the big gates that you had to go through to enter Konoha. He had figured that he did not need Kakashi to treat him to ramen, he could just buy it himself and then be on his way again. He walked through the gate, then up to the gatekeepers who seemed to be asleep. Naruto cleared his throat, which managed to wake up one of them. Kamizuki Izumo, who had just woken up, stared at Naruto and thought, blue, blonde hair. He then hit his fellow gatekeeper Hagin Katetsu on the head to wake him up. What the man? Katetsu said, yelling, and Izumo, who just held up his finger to silence him and then gave him a paper. The paper was a report that had gotten a few weeks back. Izumo's eyes widened as he stared at Naruto. Your name and reason for visiting? Katetsu asked in a bored tone. Senju, Naruto whispered, and this had Katetsu and Izumo looking at each other. Izumo nodded and disappeared in a shunshin as Naruto continued, I am here to buy some ramen. Very well, go on, Katetsu said in the same bored tone. Naruto raised an eyebrow and walked into Konoha. Freaks all of them, he thought, making his way towards Ichiraku Ramen. Naruto did not remember much about Konoha, but for some reason he knew exactly where to go. The closer he got, the more drool was leaving his mouth. Ramen sake, ramen sake, ramen sake. Naruto wore a dumb grin as he sat down at the ramen stand and yelled, 10 bowls of miso ramen. Ayame, who was working alone today, was the one that answered, geez, how many are you guys? She asked that with her back towards Naruto as she was doing some dishes. Just me, Naruto said as if it was normal. Why would there be others? They ain't getting my ramen. Ayame turned around to take a look at her crazy customer, and when she did, she dropped the bowl she was holding. Tears threatened to fall from her eyes as she stammered, and Naruto. Naruto sighed. His name was Senju after all. Yeah, it's been a while, Ayame Nichan, he smiled at the end. Ayame had quickly removed the small distance between them, and Naruto was sure she was trying to suffocate him as she hugged him into her chest. Naruto, it's really you. Naruto tried to say something, but only mumbles came out as she was still suffocating him. Having no other choice, Naruto quickly used the replacement technique to replace himself with a person that was hiding up on the roof on a nearby building. The person wore Anbu clothes and had a mask that resembled a cat somewhat. Now Awame was instead hugging an Anbu woman with purple hair into her chest while crying, "Naruto, I thought you were dead." Naruto, who had sat down next to them, answered, "I assure you I am not dead." Then he asked, "Can I please have my ramen now?" Ayame let go of the Anbu and finally realized that it was not Naruto she had been hugging, so she jumped back squealing, "Kya!" Pointing a finger the female Anbu, "What, why, when? Naruto, what did you do?" Naruto grinned, "I did nothing, ramen please." The Anbu took off her mask and said, "Well, you might as well make me a bowl as well." "Okay, coming right up," Ayame said, happy that the Anbu was not angry with her. "Al tough, usually you have dinner before you get intimate," Yugao said with a sweet smile, teasing Ayame, who got a twitch above her eye, not liking it at all. She vowed she would get Naruto back for this. When Naruto was done eating his 10 bowls, he was about to order 10 more when Yugao stopped him. "You need to come with me. Hokage-sama wants to see you," Yugao said to him, and behind her stood 3 more Anbus. "The what now?" Naruto asked, raising his eyebrow in confusion. Yugao and her 3 Anbu teammates lead Naruto to the Hokage Tower. Once they saw the building, Naruto asked, "Isn't this where the old man works?" Yugao nodded. "It is, but you should not be disrespectful like that. Call him Hokage-sama." "Are you saying the old man is the Hokage?" Naruto asked and began laughing. "That's the funniest thing I have heard all day." They had walked up the stairs inside the building by now and had reached the door to the Hokage's office. "You may enter," Yugao said as Naruto threw the door open. Just as Naruto expected, there sat the old guy smoking his pipe and reading Ika Ika Volume 9. "Yo, old man, how's it hanging?" Naruto greeted his old grandfather figure, who were sitting at his desk smoking his pipe. Hiruzen smiled at Naruto and stood up. "Naruto, my boy, I hear you have been causing trouble." Naruto started sweating and backed away as Hiruzen was approaching him. "Trouble?" He stammered. "I swear whatever you have heard, it is all lies." "Oh." Hiruzen had a disappointed look on his face. "Then I was proud of you for no reason." "That's right. Nothing you have heard is true, so don't even try to make me do your chores, old man." Hiruzen smiled and returned to his desk and then turned to take a look at Naruto again before he slammed his hand on his desk, repeatedly laughing his off. "Ha ha ha. You are still such an idiot." Naruto pouted. "I'm not." "Oh well," Hiruzen said as he dried his eyes from laughing too hard. "Come sit and tell me your story." For the next 2 hours, Naruto told Hiruzen everything that he could remember since that day he was kidnapped 3 years ago. Being taken care of and trained by Itama Senju and his various exploits as a bounty hunter. He also told him about his meetings with Ero Sennin, who Hiruzen figured must be Jiraiya. The story ended with his meeting of Team 7 recently. Hiruzen held a hand to his chin in thought. So you call yourself Senju and you have become a bounty hunter who specializes in kenjutsu, and you have killed countless of missing nin and fought Jiraiya of the Sannin many times, and on top of that you are an alcoholic who hates the Uchiha clan. Hiruzen summarized what Naruto had told him. Naruto nodded. "Yes, old man, that is correct." "You're 13, Hiruzen pointed out. "I am," Naruto answered. Hiruzen stood up and walked slowly towards Naruto. "Is he going to reward me for being such a badass?" Naruto thought with a smile. The smile quickly changed into an expression of pain as Hiruzen slammed his fist down on Naruto's head. "You have become an idiot." "Well, more of an idiot," Hiruzen scolded. "That has to change. As of now you will be a ninja of Konoha working for me." "Who are you calling idiot, you old monkey?" Naruto yelled back at him, which earned him another hit to the head, and now Naruto had 2 big lumps sticking out of his hair. Naruto held his head in pain. "Damn, that hurt. What are you fists made of, stone?" "Let me tell you something first. You should give up on your stupid plan to kill the Uchiha clan." "Why? They are our natural enemies," Naruto asked, narrowing his eyes. "Because they have pretty much been wiped out already. There are only a few of them left," Hiruzen explained. "Wiped out? When?" Uchiha Itachi, the older brother of Sasuke who you have met recently, went rogue after killing his whole clan with the exception of Sasuke, their younger sister Midori and their mother Makoto. Those four are the only people from the Uchiha clan that are still alive. Hiruzen continued his explanation with a somber look. I see, Naruto said sighing, but who is Sasuke? I haven't met any Uchiha Sasuke. I did meet Haruno Sasuke though. Did you mix them up, old man? Sasuke? Naruto had combined Sasuke's, Sakura's and Tayuya's name. Well, even if you have met him or not, I want you to stop going after any Uchiha clan member that is a part of Konoha at the very least. Naruto pouted. Can't I kill one of them? Please. No. Fine, Naruto whined. I will promise to try not to kill them at the very least, but if they give me a reason to kill them, I will do so. Very well, Hiruzen agreed. Now, will you become a ninja of Konoha? Hiruzen asked. Will you pay me? Hiruzen nodded and scratched his bear. You will get paid for the missions you do. And sake? Naruto asked. What about it? How much sake will I get as a bonus for each mission? None. Hiruzen yelled and slammed his fist on Naruto's head once again. Itai. An hour later, just outside of Konoha. Damn that old monkey. Naruto thought while nursing his head. He didn't have to hit so hard. After hitting Naruto a few more times and putting a Konoha mark with a stamp on his forehead, Hiruzen had sent Naruto on his first mission. He was to find a certain genin team and bring them safely back to Konoha. The genin team had been sent on their first C-ranked mission. The mission was to act as bodyguards for a businessman on his way to a village at the Fire Country's border. This village, however, was not a normal village. It was a village where many ninjas and bounty hunters gathered when they took a break during their missions. Sometimes, but very rarely, even missing nins gather there, and that is the reason why Naruto is sent to back up the genin team. The genin team was Team 8 led by Yuhi Kurenai, a rookie Junin. Her three genins are Inuzuka Kiba, Aburame Shino and Hyuga Hinata. 3 hours quickly passed as Naruto ran towards the village at high speed. Team 8 had completed their mission and had headed out from the village an hour ago. An half-hour after they had left the village, they had been attacked by ninjas from Rain Village. There was 4 Rain ninjas in total, 3 of them Chunin and 1 of them a Junin. The Junin was no stranger to Kurenai since he was a former Konoha ninja, Rokusho Aoi. Kiba and Hinata had both lost to their Chunin opponents quickly, while Shino held up longer but in the end lost as well. Kurenai was holding up until she was distracted by seeing all of her genins losing their battles. One of the Chunins kicked Kiba in the head while laughing, so weak. The one that had beaten Shino did the same while the one that had beaten Hinata was leering at her. Let's bring this girl and that woman and have some fun tonight, Captain Aoi. You bastards. Kurenai yelled with blood falling out of her mouth. She was pinned to the ground by Aoi, who had took advantage of her being distracted and managed to surprise Kurenai. This was the scene that Naruto walked into. Urara a fight, Naruto said in a boring tone, gaining the attention of everyone there. Get lost, brat. The Chunin that was standing next to Kiba said while the one next to Shino pointed to Naruto's forehead. He has the Konoha mark, he is with them. He doesn't have a forehead protector. He's probably just some brat playing ninja. Ignore him, the one that was leering at Hinata said. Naruto looked around, ignoring the brat comments for now, and then he noticed something. He walked up to the Chunin next to Kiba and unsealed his sword from a scroll which he had stored in his small shirt pocket. He brought the back of the sword to Kiba's head and poked him and said, "Aren't you that? You know. Kiba, that doesn't look like a toy sword. What should we do with him, Captain?" The Chunin next to Kiba asked Aoi, who answered quickly, "Just kill him as well, and do it quick, we don't have all day." Kiba had taken a lot of damage and was currently very dizzy. The only thing he could make out was blonde hair and a stupid smile and something poking him. Cut it out. He whined. Naruto grinned and turned his attention back to the Rain Ninja. Are any of you guys Team 8? The Rain Ninjas didn't answer. Instead, they had armed themselves with kunais and surrounded Naruto, who hadn't moved or even noticed that they had surrounded him. We are Team 8. Kiba managed to say between coughs. I see, Naruto said, putting a hand to his chin. Ah. I have figured out the situation. Die. The three Chunins yelled at the same time, throwing their kunais at him. Naruto quickly deflected the kunais with his sword and then moved at such a high speed that no one there could follow him. He had ran past each one of the Chunins once and no one saw it, but he had drawn his sword 3 times. Hinata Sancho, Naruto said, slowly walking past the Chunins who had not moved from their spot. A moment later all 3 of them started bleeding from a big cut on their stomach, blood coming out from their mouths then falling down on the ground. Yahazu Jiri. 3 verse humming. Arrow notch slash. Ah crap. Naruto said, stomping his foot on the ground. I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Senju. Nani? Aoi said with wide eyes. So that is it. You have come for my bounty then, huh? Bounty hunter Senju. Huh. Naruto said in a bored tone. Who are you? Kurenai had finally regained her composure, yelled. You can't defeat this man. I will hold him up to give you time to get my genins out of here. Naruto narrowed his eyes at her. Are you the old man? Huh. No, was Kurenai's answer. Then no, I don't take orders from anyone but the old man, so I refuse, Naruto said and did a hand sign, Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Creating 10 solid shadow clones. This brat, Aoi thought, staring down at the clones, you know that technique. Impressive. But that won't be enough against me. Aoi armed himself with the Raijin no Ken, sword of the Thunder God, and charged Naruto's clones. Bunshin Daibakua, Naruto whispered from behind a tree where had hidden himself, and soon after his clones exploded. Naruto managed to see Aoi using the replacement technique to get himself to safety before smoke covered the area. Damn it, Naruto said and walked out from where he was hiding and stared up at Aoi, who was standing on a large tree branch. I am a Junin for a reason, you know, Aoi said before jumping down on the ground, but for now I have had enough of you, let's settle this, shall we? Crap, I really wanted to end this with ninjutsu, Naruto whined while drying his fake tears. Oh well. Naruto focused as he saw Aoi running at him at a high speed with that lightning sword. Naruto charged at Aoi at an even higher speed. Itoryu Ei, Shishishi Sun. Naruto's quick draw sword technique was a lot faster than Aoi was prepared for. The result was Naruto's sword cutting Aoi from his shoulder down to his waist, nearly cutting him into 2 halves. I'm done, Naruto said as Aoi fell down on the ground, obviously dead with blood everywhere. He resheated his sword and walked towards Kurenai, who had seen everything. Now then, Naruto began, are you Team 8? Hi. Kurenai answered, taken a bit by surprise. I am the Junin sensei of Team 8, Yuhi Kurenai. I see, Naruto said before creating 3 shadow clones. His clones picked up Kiba, Hinata and Shino and threw them over their shoulders while Naruto did the same with Kurenai. Then I will take you guys back to Konoha, it is my mission after all. Just as Naruto was about to leave with Team 8 who he and his clones was currently carrying, Kurenai reminded him of something. You should take that sword with you, and Aoi as well, he is a Konoha missing nin. Naruto snapped his head to look at Kurenai, but all he saw was her back since he had thrown her over his shoulder earlier and her head hung down behind him. Oh that's right, can't leave a bounty here like that. Why the sword? That is the Raijin no Ken and that is one of the swords our second Hokage Senju Tobirama used before he died, Kurenai explained. Naruto whistled. Tobirama, huh? Before he created another clone to seal both the sword and Aoi's remains. After that Naruto and his clones started running towards Konoha at a fast pace, but not as fast as when he was alone and not carrying someone, which meant that it would take longer to travel the same distance back to Konoha. After 3 hours of running and jumping from tree to tree in the forest, Naruto decided to take a rest since they had only gotten halfway in that amount of time. Kurenai noticed that Naruto slowed down and asked, why are you stopping? I need a rest, Naruto said and put her and the others down before he walked away and sat down facing the 4 of them. Kiba and the others had still not woken up, but Kurenai had noticed something strange. The wounds on all of her genins had healed somewhat and there were no scratches or anything to show from the battle earlier other than the blood on their clothes. Taking a look at their savior, she saw something that irritated her very much. Sitting there across from them was that brat drinking sake and reading a volume of Ika Ika Paradise. That bounty sure will come in handy now that I am almost out of sake, Naruto said, then laughed before he focused on the book again. Would you mind doing that some other time, like when you are alone and not out in public with others? Kurenai asked in an irritated tone. Naruto had confused expression. Doing what? Kurenai forgot about her anger with him drinking and reading perverted novels in front her due to something she had forgotten to do earlier. Thanks for saving us. I admit I might have underestimated you earlier. You are very strong for your age. Ahaha, don't sweat it. It was no problem at all, Naruto said with a smile before he took a good look at Kurenai and looked her up and down. Nice legs, Naruto offered, since it was only right to give someone who just complimented you a compliment yourself. Kurenai looked as if she had not registered what Naruto had told her yet. You complimented me earlier, so it's only right I compliment you since I'm a good boy after all, Naruto said with a grin and a thumbs up. Kurenai's eyebrow twitched in irritation. And nice legs, she repeated. Naruto nodded while he pocketed his Ika Ika and chugged the rest of his sake before saying, well, let's head back now, creating 3 new clones to carry Kiba and the others once again. Can you walk? Naruto asked. Kurenai walked over to Naruto and hit on the head. Carry me. Naruto threw her over his shoulder once again. Didn't have to hit me, you know. If you wanted me to carry you, you just had to say so. Kurenai gritted her teeth and growled, I don't want you to carry me, but we need to get back. But you just, Naruto said with a sweat drop as Kurenai hit him again, yelling, carry me normally. Naruto tried many different ways of carrying Kurenai until they both agreed on bridal style. You happy now, woman? Naruto said, irritated. Do you want me to hit you again? Kurenai said, looking up at him. Gah, I hate you, Naruto said in a whiny voice, and then he and his clones ran towards Konoha. Run faster, Kurenai ordered, smiling at Naruto's expression. Shut up, TT Ibeo. Naruto's screams could be heard even a mile away and probably woke up the rest of Team 8. 1 hour later, back in Konoha, Naruto had ran even faster than when he was trying to find Team 8 since Kurenai had ordered him and wouldn't stop no matter how much Naruto whined about it. Once inside Konoha, he had gotten the attention of pretty much everyone they had passed on their way towards the Hokage Tower. One of those people were Asuma, who was eating at a barbecue joint with the other members of Team 10. No, Asuma yelled with tears falling from his eyes, you won't get my Harem that easily, you namikaze brat. And followed after them. What the did I do? Naruto yelled as he looked back at Asuma while running even faster. Kurenai got his attention by putting her hand on his chest. That's Asuma, he has been in love with me for as long as I remember. I guess he is the jealous type, she grinned at him. Jealous of what? Naruto said with a sweat drop. He can carry you and hear you're bitching all he wants for all I care. What did I tell you earlier? Kurenai glared at him with murder in her eyes. Naruto sighed. Whatever you want, Kurenai-chan. And he started running fast enough while using Shunshin to lose Asuma. Once he and his clones reached the Hokage office, he dropped the genins on the floor while Kurenai slowly got off Naruto. Naruto's clones quickly dispelled and Naruto stood there sweating and trying to catch his breath. The genins of Team 8 had woken up from being dropped on the ground and was now looking around a bit confused since they did not know how they got here. I have, Naruto said between breaths, completed the mission, old monkey. Team 8 had expected some sort of yell of disrespect from the Hokage, but instead he just smiled and nodded. Good job, shitty brat. NGHH. Naruto exclaimed as he had finally had enough with being making a fool of. Kurenai's bitching earlier and the treatment from this old monkey was unacceptable. He unsealed his scroll while his eyes twitched and big veins appeared on his forehead. You and me outside now, monkey. Within a second Hiruzen had jumped from his seat behind his desk and punched Naruto in the head, giving him a large lump sticking out from it. Naruto was laying on the floor holding his head, screaming in pain, "I hate this place." "Ma," Hiruzen said, and took something out of his pocket and dropped it on Naruto's head. It was a bottle of sake. "Here is your payment." Naruto looked at it, suddenly forgetting about the pain in his head's sake. Naruto said with drool coming from his mouth, "Thanks, Ji-chan." Naruto yelled and hugged him. All right, Hiruzen said, trying to get Naruto off of him. "You can leave now, go get yourself some ramen or something. I need to speak with Team 8 Inches. Naruto nodded and picked up his sake bottle and jumped head first out the window that was still closed, breaking the glass. "Take the door next time," Hiruzen yelled after him. A week had passed since Naruto returned with Team 8, not much had happened during this week. Naruto had taken a training ground that no one seemed to use for himself. He had trained for most of the week in ninjutsu since he was still lacking in that area, but had many scrolls on various ninjutsu techniques that he could learn. He had also sparred against Gamahiro a few times during the week to improve his kenjutsu and add another loss to their record. He had also summoned Gamaken daily so he could bring a big barrel of sake which they would share and then make fun and talk shit about Gamahiro, Gamabunta and Jiraiya. A few days ago a group of Chunins had come to the training grounds demanding that Naruto leave because it was their time to use it. Naruto had knocked them out and tied them with ropes around a tree which they are still tied to today. Just now someone had appeared on the training grounds after using a shunshin to get there. Most likely someone that would end up the same way as the Chunins tied to the tree. Hitaki Kakashi had arrived from Wave yesterday, and earlier this morning Hiruzen had ordered him to bring Naruto to his office. "Yo Naruto," Kakashi greeted him with a wave. Naruto, who was sitting inside one of his sake barrels, stared at him with a bored expression. "What do you want?" Hiding the fact that he was unsheathing his sword. Naruto was not a big fan of Hitaki Kakashi, and if he was going to demand to have the training ground as well, he would have to fight for it. "Oh, don't be so cold," Kakashi said, and picked up his Ika book and read it. "Hokage-sama wants you to go to his office." After jumping out from the barrel that he got stuck to earlier trying to drink the sake that was at the very bottom, Naruto used a shunshin to get near the Hokage tower without saying any more words to Kakashi. Naruto then jumped into the Hokage office through the window that was now open, and he saw Hiruzen sitting behind his desk reading his own Ika. Hiruzen coughed and put the book away. "You're late," Hiruzen complained. "I got here as soon as Kakashi told me. I told Kakashi to get you 5 hours ago. I don't see how that is my fault," Naruto said, sitting down in a chair in front of Hiruzen's desk. "Guess that is to be expected when you ask Kakashi to do something," Hiruzen mumbled before he told Naruto, "You forgot to tell me about something after your mission last time." Naruto nodded, knowing what he meant, and took a scroll from his shirt's pocket and unsealed it on the desk. Out came a corpse from one missing ninja Naruto had hunted before he came to Konoha. Quickly sealing it back into the scroll after saying, "Ah, wrong one," Naruto found the right scroll and unsealed the remains of Aoi. "I don't want you to throw corpses on my desk, I want the Raijin no Ken," Hiruzen said with a sweat drop. "Why though?" Naruto asked, raising an eyebrow. "I found it, not you, so it is mine now." Hiruzen sighed. "So you have it then?" Naruto nodded as Hiruzen continued. "Good, that is all I wanted to know, don't lose it." "Yeah," Naruto said before his expression went sour. "You know someone had trifled with the contents of that sake bottle you gave me." "Oh, how so?" Hiruzen said, smiling. "There was no sake in it, just milk. Tasted like shit," Naruto said. Hiruzen nodded. "That's right, your brat and brats should drink milk." "So it was you," Naruto said with a glare. "I should beat you up." "Ah, that sounds fun," Hiruzen said boringly, "but before that I need you to shut up for a minute and listen." "I'm listening, monkey." "Why you? I don't have all day." With another sigh, Hiruzen began talking about how he wanted Naruto to become a Konoha genin. He told Naruto that he was disappointed in his generation since none of them were even close to the prodigies of earlier generations such as Minato, Kakashi and Itachi. Apparently there was a Chunin exams coming up in 4 months that would be held in Konoha and he wanted Naruto to take a part of that with a team. He explained that Konoha has been known for a long time as the strongest of the 5 big ninja villages and he would like it to stay that way. But there is one problem, I have one suitable member for your new genin team but I can't find the last one, Hiruzen explained. Naruto scratched his chin in thought. I could summon Gamakichi and have him act as a third member. I assume that is one of your toad friends? Hiruzen asked. Naruto nodded and Hiruzen sighed once again. No, it must be a human. Well, what the old man? Naruto said. I don't know any people in this village, finding a third member is your job. I know, Hiruzen said, but you agree to it then. Yeah, Naruto said boringly, can I go now? Yes, Hiruzen said before he remembered something that he had thought on earlier. By the way, why are you living out on that training field instead of at your apartment? Apartment? I have an apartment, Naruto asked. Of course you have. Hiruzen yelled and pointed out the window. Your old apartment is still yours. I have paid the rent for you the 3 years you have been gone and also had people to clean the place from time to time. Naruto looked at the apartment and smiled. Really, old man? You're a good guy after all. Hiruzen mumbled something as he tried to find his pipe and Ika before saying, get lost. See ya, monkey. Naruto yelled laughing as he jumped through one of the closed windows and broke another one, but just before that he had thrown 3 scrolls to Hiruzen containing Aoi and 2 other missing nin. Naruto's next stop would be Ichiraku Ramen for some ramen and sake. While jumping the rooftops he saw an odd group of people walking down one of the village roads. There was 8 people around his age and all of them he had met recently. It was 8 out of the rookie 9, the only one missing was Yuya. But saying hello to them was not as important as filling his empty stomach with ramen. At Ichiraku's, why isn't this place flocked with people? Naruto thought, seeing how the Ichiraku ramen place was empty once again. This was the best food in the world after all, nothing beat it, and what was best was that they served sake as well. Naruto walked into the stand and sat down. 5 bowls of miso ramen, old man. Who you calling old man? Tsuki said, pulling up his arm sleeves as he turned around. Naruto, is that you? He asked, a bit surprised since this was the first time seeing him in 3 years. He was not as surprised as Ayame had been, however, since she had told him that Naruto was back. Yeah, old man, it's me. Throw me 5 bowls of miso ramen and a bottle of sake, Naruto said cheerfully. Tsuki laughed. 5 bowls of miso ramen coming up. As for the sake, Tsuki pointed to the wall behind him where a poster had been placed. On it was a picture of Naruto and under it was written with big letters, not allowed to buy sake, signed Sarutobi Hiruzen. God damn it! Naruto yelled, that monkey. Naruto slammed his fist down on the counter. He quickly forgot about his anger as Tsuki had placed his 5 bowls in front of him as he buried his face within the bowl, and before Tsuki could find time to turn around and start on the dishes, Naruto had emptied his first bowl. I'm gonna need 5 more bowls after this, Naruto said, looking up from his second bowl for a second before he devoured it as well. Uzumaki Yuya had just arrived at Ichiraku and the first thing she did was sat down and ordered a bowl of chicken ramen. She had not bothered to take a glimpse to her left to notice that Naruto was here as well. But the sounds Naruto was making as he emptied bowl after bowl in record times was starting to annoy her. This is the best food ever, Naruto said as tears almost fell from his eye. Tsuki nodded. It is, isn't it? He said as he gave to Yuya what she had ordered earlier. Naruto got his face out of his 5th bowl and stared at Yuya with ramen hanging out his mouth. That is, wasn't she that? Forget it, he thought and emptied the 5th bowl in a second. Tsuki, being a chef with good timing, had just placed the other 5 he had ordered in front him, so Naruto naturally found a new place to bury his face. Yuya had enough with the sounds. Who was this pig that was sitting next to her? she thought as she looked to her left. She immediately recognized him as the guy her team had ran into their mission. The one who did not answer her questions regarding who the he was and why they shared their last name. Hey Tayuya said, you are Uzumaki Naruto, right? Naruto once again stopped eating while having ramen hanging out of his mouth and some stuck to his face and stared at Tayuya, thinking something similar to earlier before he continued eating. Oh no, Tsuki thought as he knew that Tayuya hated to be ignored. Tayuya was red from anger and a tick mark formed above her eye as she stood up and got over to Naruto, I asked you in question. Naruto, who still had 3 more bowls to finish, took them all and threw the contents into his mouth and swallowed it all. He then patted his stomach and breathed, that was some good food, thanks old man, he said, and paid for 10 bowls. He then walked out of the stand without a word. Tayuya quickly paid for her meal as well and then ran after him ready to open a can of whoop ass. Naruto was going to check out his old apartment, maybe get some sleep in a bed for once. He had taken the same road that he had seen the Rookie 9 on earlier, since that road lead to the building his apartment was a part of. The Rookie 9 were currently watching something of a scene that one member of their group had caused. Uchiha Sasuke was currently scolding his little sister Midori, who had seen them and told Sasuke that their mother wanted to talk with about the mission he had returned from recently. Sasuke had told Midori to go away and not bother him when he was with his ninja colleagues. This had angered Midori since she saw herself as a better ninja than Sasuke even though she had not graduated the academy yet. Midori was 1 year younger than Sasuke and the rest of the Rookie 9, making her 12 years old. Midori was about as tall as Hinata, who was the shortest of the Rookie 9. Her hair was a messy dark blue, almost black, and it reached down to her shoulders. She had cute face and big red eyes. She wore a black jumpsuit with the Uchiha fan on the back of her shirt. If you have seen School Rumble, imagine that she looks like Tsukamoto Yakumo. If you haven't seen it, you could Google it. Midori was not as stubborn or uptight as Sasuke was, but she was very shy around guys, making people believe she was just as uptight as Sasuke. She was also very strong for her age and would probably give most of the Rookie 9 a good fight. Midori had a rivalry with Sasuke, and that was why they were fighting in the middle of the road, even though she was usually so shy. So I am not allowed to speak to you while you're with your friends just because I am not an official ninja yet. Midori growled at him. Sasuke answered with a smirk that Sakura thought made him look so cool. Sakura had another thing on her mind, something Ino had told her earlier. Ino had told her that she could have Sasuke because she had found someone better and much cooler. Sakura was just about to question who that was when Naruto with Tayuya on his tails walked into the scene. Everyone stopped what they were doing and stared at him as he walked with his nose deep down into a volume of Ika Ika. Naruto looked up from the book for a second and nodded towards Kiba, Yo Kiba, then Shikamaru and Shikoji, and then jumped as he dodged a low kick coming from Tayuya. He walked past them like that without another word while Tayuya had stopped due to someone glaring at her. It's Shikamaru and Choji. Troublesome, Shikamaru mumbled. What is it, Ino? Tayuya asked the glaring girl with her own glare. What are you doing with Naruto? Ino asked in an angry tone. Tayuya got even angrier at that. I am trying to kick the ears. Stay away from him. Ino yelled and got ready to defend her new love interest. Sakura had seemed to put it together as she now had her jaw dropped on the ground in shock. Ino's in love with Naruto. She thought. Naruto, who had walked far enough that he could not hear them, turned around and looked at Midori, then Sasuke. Sasuke had his back to him and he saw the Uchiha fan on his shirt. Oh, so that was what you meant, Fox. Naruto spoke inwardly towards Kurama, referring to something Kurama had told him after the events at the bridge in Wave. One of the things Team 7 had lied about Naruto was about Sasuke not being an Uchiha, and in that way saved his life. Just as he was about to continue towards his house, he noticed someone jumping down from a rooftop and was now standing behind him. He knew who this person was and it irritated him. Why did he have to see her so soon? She was the devil. Kurenai smiled and poked Naruto on the shoulder to get his attention. Before Naruto could tell her to go to hell, he had to dodge a kick to the head coming from none other than Sarutobi Asuma. He had bent down and dodged it, and Asuma had landed on his feet and turned around and faced him. I told you to stay away from her, Asuma growled. I keep asking you, Amusa, what the hell have I done? Naruto yelled back, and the two of them had gained everyone's attention nearby, including the rookie 9 and Midori. I warned you and told you not to try anything with my Harem, Asuma said, slowly closing the distance between them and gripping his fist. Your Harem? Naruto asked. But I haven't seen her since that night, and she's over there, he said, pointing at Ino. Kurenai laughed at that due to the red face of Asuma, who yelled back with his finger pointed at Kurenai, that is my Harem, Ino is just my brat of a student. Naruto scratched the back of his head and laughed. So what is the problem then? Asuma, Kurenai said, gaining his attention, you and me are not dating. But Kurenai, Asuma whined. And stop making a fool of yourself in front of all the students, she said as Asuma saw who was just there. But Kurenai, please tell me that you are not, Asuma pleaded, but Kurenai interrupted him, go away, Asuma. Asuma gave up for this time and walked away with one single thought, she won't deny it. Like a light bulb going, Naruto had realized what was going on. Is that guy a retard or something? Who would be interested in someone like you? What was that? Kurenai responded quickly, cracking her knuckles. You think you can take me? Naruto said, unsheathing his sword. I won't go easy on you just because you're a woman. Kurenai's eyebrow twitched and she smiled in a way that looked really forced. Just because I am a woman? Yeah, I don't like fighting women, Naruto answered, then mumbled, I have a bad history with fighting women. He might be referring to that time one of the Sanins beat him up. Or that other time when he was caught again doing the same thing. Kurenai sighed and her anger disappeared. She wanted to talk with Naruto ever since they got back from that mission, but she could not find anywhere in the village. I was just going to thank you again for saving us on that mission. Don't worry about it, Naruto said with a grin and then waved. I need to get some rest. Oh no, you won't, Kurenai warned him. I know what resting means for you. Hand over the sake and arrow books. This had the rookie 9 laughing, especially Kiba. Now Naruto was going to get it. He deserved that for making fun of him on that mission. He was thankful that Naruto saved them, but he didn't have to poke him with his sword and laugh at him. You have a wild imagination, Kurenai-san, Naruto said in a bored tone before doing the signs for a shunshin. I am just going home to get some sleep, Baka Onna. He yelled and disappeared in gust of wind. The next time I see him, Kurenai said with her eyes twitching as she walked away. Tayuya glared at Kurenai since she was the one that was going to beat him up and then get answers on everything she wanted to know. Shikamaru walked away with a sweat drop after watching everything that had went down between the rookie 9 and even their teachers. Everyone's fighting, troublesome. With a yawn he jumped up a rooftop and laid there staring at the clouds. Naruto had slept for 16 hours straight, which was normal after he had trained a lot for a week with minimal sleep. But Naruto being in Konoha for a week without a single mission had bored him and he was hungry for some action. With that thought he headed towards the Hokage Tower. It was currently very early in the morning, only old people and party people that had not gone to sleep yet was up at this time. When Naruto arrived at Hiruzen's office, he saw Hiruzen sitting on his chair sleeping with his head on the desk. To his right in the corner of the room was Kakashi sleeping in a way that looked as if he had been knocked out. In the other corner into his left was Jiraiya sleeping in the same way. What the did they do yesterday? Naruto thought, taking in the sight. After a loud snore from Hiruzen he woke up and stared at Naruto, who had taken a seat in front of his desk. Good morning, shitty brat, Hiruzen said in a low voice as he stood up and stretched his arms above his head. Morning, monkey. I need a mission, Naruto got right to the point. Need a mission, huh? Hiruzen said before his eyebrow twitched. You don't realize how much problems you have caused for me. Problems? Explain. See those two? Hiruzen said, referring to Jiraiya and Kakashi. They came here yesterday together with one other Junin-sensei demanding changes to the team rosters. Naruto nodded. Yes, I understand. They want all of their genins to quit being ninja and get new genins, right? Hiruzen grabbed his hair and pulled it. No, they want you on their team, Hiruzen yelled while thinking, why would anyone want to be his teacher? Before he continued explaining, as for Jiraiya, he wants you to become his apprentice and stay teamless. That would be fine, except I need you on a team for the reason I explained yesterday. I don't get it. Speak sense, Naruto demanded. I told you they want you on your team and they are fighting over it, Hiruzen said with a sigh. And I told you to speak sense. What does that have to do with me? I ain't joining their loser teams anyway, and I sure as hell ain't becoming Ero Sennin's apprentice. Hiruzen smiled at that. That's what I wanted to hear. So you want a mission? Naruto nodded. I need to move around or I get bored. Hiruzen thought for a while, then asked, how about I let you lead a squad of genins on a C-ranked mission? C-ranked? Naruto asked. Is that a mission suitable for my skills? Well, Hiruzen said, scratching his beard, C ranks are not the hardest of missions, but it is a good start. You just joined the village after all, and I am letting you lead a squad already. Okay, I accept. Naruto said, then asked, what is the mission details? I will tell you about that later. First you need to gather your squad. You will need to pick 2 genins of your choice and the last one will be this person, Hiruzen said and handed Naruto a file with a picture of someone Naruto saw yesterday. Naruto read the name out loud, Uchiha Midori. Hiruzen nodded. Yes, she is still an academy student, but I have decided to let her graduate early and become a member of your future team. Cut the crap, Naruto said with his hands shaking in anger before he threw the file back to Hiruzen. I can agree to not hunt them, but I won't work with them. What about we make a little deal? Hiruzen said with a grin. 10 minutes later at the Uchiha clan compound. Not many people was awake yet as it was still early in the morning, but around here there was never a lot of people anyway since that day Itachi had slaughtered almost the whole clan. So there was not many that saw the odd sight of the Hokage and Naruto walking into the Uchiha clan compound both with big grins and knocking on the front door to Sasuke's home. What idiot would be up this early? They heard a woman's voice from inside say in a somewhat angry tone. Uchiha Makoto opened the door and the 2 people that stood outside would not be her first guess if she had one. Sarutobi Hiruzen, the Sandaime Hokage, rarely made home visits and the other one had to be her friend's son who disappeared 3 years ago. Hokage-sama, she said surprised. Did Sasuke do something bad? Hiruzen chuckled. No, it's not like that. I'm here for Midori, could you get her? Midori? Makoto questioned. Why would he want to meet Midori? She never gets in trouble, she thought before she went to get her after saying, sure I will get her and nice to see you again, Naruto, still sounding a bit confused. Who is that? Naruto said as she had disappeared from their view. How does she know my name? Let's just say she was a friend of your parents, Hiruzen said. Oh, Naruto said raising an eyebrow. Some poor woman my useless dad nailed once. Hiruzen narrowed his eye at Naruto after hearing that. What did you just say? Do you know who your dad is? Naruto nodded. Sure I do, then looked at Hiruzen oddly. Do you know which one of your testicles is your left? The left one obviously, Hiruzen answered. Obviously? Naruto repeated with a grin. Why you little? Hiruzen began and was ready to bonk him on the head when Makoto returned with Midori, who looked as if she had just woken up. She bowed and said, you wanted to see me, Hokage-sama. Naruto snickered at that and Hiruzen waved her up. No need for that, young lady, he said, and Midori stopped bowing. Hiruzen grabbed something from his coat which they soon saw was a Konoha forehead protector. Uchiha Midori, I have decided to let you graduate early and become a genin as of today, do you accept? Midori developed a huge smile after she got over her shock. Really? Of course I accept, she said cheerfully, taking the forehead protector and hugging it. Sasuke is going to be so mad when he finds out, she said to Makoto, who sighed and nodded. Hiruzen then coughed into his hand. Ehem. Let me introduce you to your teammate, Uzumaki Naruto. He finished with pushing Naruto forward and saying, introduce yourself, brat. I am Senju, Yoroshikyu. Naruto had thrown his face into hers and he looked more like a delinquent bullying someone than a ninja. This is the guy Sasuke told me to stay away from, Midori thought as she stared at Naruto, but she was too shy to say anything in response. Hiruzen on the other hand bonked Naruto on the head. Don't forget about what we agreed on earlier. Whatever, I was just having some fun, Naruto said, sitting with crossed arms looking the other way, pouting. This had Midori loosen up a bit as she laughed at what she saw. Maybe that guy was not so bad after all. So Midori, are you ready for your first mission? You will be leaving this morning with this idiot being in charge, Hiruzen asked. Hi, Hokage-sama, she answered with a salute. Okay, meet me in my office in an hour. Naruto, you get the other two and meet me there as well, Hiruzen said. Che, Naruto responded, whatever you say, old monkey, and jumped out of the Uchiha clan compound. Now all Naruto had to do was figure out who the last member of the temporary squad would be. He had already found the third from the start, which was Kiba, of course, considering that was the only one whose name he could remember. He was considering the lazy bastard because he was fun to hang with from what he could remember, but he needed to balance the team. And by balancing a team he means not having too many guys, so he would need to find a female. Do I even know any girls? Naruto thought, sitting on a rooftop nearby Ichiraku Ramen that had yet to open. I could always have a clone henge into Suheim. That way I will always have something nice to look at, he thought with a perverted smile, but I doubt the monkey would fall for that. Ah, Naruto yelled. Of course Kiba should be able to help. He then sprinted towards Kiba's home. After arriving he stormed to the front door and banged on it with his fists. Kiba, oi Kiba, you awake? Kiba datbeo. He stopped yelling and knocking on the door when he heard footsteps. A girl who looked like she was maybe 2 years older than himself, with brown hair and black eyes and 2 big red triangle markings on each cheek, opened the door. She was only wearing a towel as she had rushed out from the shower to open the door. Hannah is 15 in this story instead of 18. What is wrong with you? It's 6 in the morning, Hannah said after she had thrown the door open in an angry tone. Hey, is Kiba. Naruto saw just who he spoke to and shot backwards with blood exploding from his nose. Hannah laughed at that while Kiba arrived wearing his pajamas. What's going on? Who's the bastard causing all the noise? He then saw Naruto on the ground outside the door with a dumb smile and blood all over his face. Naruto. Kiba sniggering as he picked up stick and poked him. Is that you, Naruto? Haha. Naruto laughed. Kiba, there is a total babe in your doorway. What, where? Kiba said, looking at the door. I don't see any babes, just my sister Hannah. That's who I meant, dumbass, Naruto said, wiping of the blood and jumping in front of Hannah. Yo. Hi. She said, responded, not very interested. It seems that fate wanted me to find you here, he said, taking her hand. I was looking for someone just like you to take the last spot in my squad. Just like me? She asked, confused. What do you mean by that? I will explain later, he said, and then looked over at Kiba, who was somewhat angry at Naruto because he gotten excited for no reason. There was no babe nearby. Kiba, you are also going? With you and Hannah? No way, pal. Kiba said, waving him away. Why would I spend any more time than I need with that witch? Kiba, Hannah said slowly and threateningly. Alright, I'm sorry, Kiba said, backing away. So are you planning on leaving like that, or are you going to get some clothes on? Hannah sighed. Well, I will come with you. Naruto was it. But only to see how Kiba acts on a real mission, she said with a smile. Naruto nodded. Let's go then, you look just fine to me, no need for clothes, holding up his thumb and winking. Pervert, she said, and closed the door in his face. At 7 in the morning the group had gathered in Hiruzen's office where Kakashi and Jiraiya was still passed out. Ah, good, you found the people, Hiruzen acknowledged. Then he looked at Hannah, then back to Naruto. Hannah is a chunin, I told you, genin only. Yes, I know, but all the genin I know were busy, so I had no other choice, Naruto said, scratching the back of his head. No other choice, Hana said as she snapped her head towards him. What are you implying? Naruto quickly jumped over to her and whispered, just play along. I can't stand the other genins. Hana giggled. Alright. What a weird guy. Meh. Hiruzen shrugged. Good enough. He then threw Naruto a paper that contained the mission details. Naruto, you will be the captain and Midori will be the vice captain. Naruto has the same authority as your Junin senseis, so what he says goes. Hi, Hana, Midori and Kiba said with a salute, but Naruto on the other hand grinned and walked over to Hana. The first order is for you to present yourself in the same way as when I first saw you. Naruto was then assaulted in a way that would be too painful to write out. Not the balls, Naruto cried out as he had just taken a kick to the groin. Why always the balls? He whined. Kiba leaned down and said, it's a mystery, Captain. With the longest sigh of this morning, Hiruzen ordered, get going already. Getting up while holding his balls, Naruto slowly made his way out of the office with a half, yes sir. 5 minutes later, outside of the eastern Konoha gate. So where are we heading, Captain? Kiba asked. We are heading to a village named Oita within the land of hot water, Naruto said, reading from the paper. We are going to get some kind of item there. Naruto hung his head in disappointment. Kiba put a hand on his back. Cheer up, Captain, this is C-ranked after all. The others are going to be so jealous that I got to go on another one so soon after the last one. But, Naruto whined, it's a baby mission. Anyo. Captain Naruto, we are only genin and we are already going on AC ranked for our first mission. I don't think that has ever happened before, Midori said, trying to cheer her captain and future teammate up. Naruto was about to tell her that she was not allowed to speak within his presence and that was most likely her fault that they were going on this kind of joke mission. But he could not bring himself to do it. She was just too damn cute, even if she was an Uchiha. So he chose to mumble for himself and get going. Follow me, team, and speed it up already, he ordered as he jumped into a tree and then jumped from tree branch to tree branch. He quickly noticed that the only one that was even close to keeping up with him was Hana, so he had to slow down. I hate that monkey, Naruto thought with a tick mark above his eye as he let the others catch up to him. Why didn't the monkey just give him a simple mission like assassinating some traitor or something like that? Naruto was leading the group as they walked on a dirt road for a change instead of jumping from tree to tree. This was due to the others' constant complaining about, we need to rest, or, we haven't slept in a day, slow down. Something like this was new to Naruto as he never really traveled with anyone before. But Naruto knew how he could take advantage of the situation. He turned around and looked at Hana. Hana, I need you to take the lead for a while. Hana raised an eyebrow. Hi, are we still walking for a while? Naruto nodded and let Hana get in front as she did. Naruto's eyes dropped downwards as he stared at Hana's back. Yeah, now we talkin', Naruto thought with a perverted smile which everyone noticed. Did you tell me to get in front just so you could stare at my? Hana growled. Naruto nodded. Of course, that is the reason I brought you in the first place. Hana gritted her teeth. So that is the reason. Captain, might I remind you that that is my sister? Kiba said with a low voice. Midori was slowly backing away from them as she did not want to get caught in the fight. Hana looked really pissed of would attack her funny captain at any second now. I'm going to kick your, then I will take charge. I don't understand why the Hokage let you lead the squad instead of me in the first place, Hana said. Yeah, why would he? Naruto asked. He gripped his sword. Maybe the old monkey is dumb. Do you think he is dumb, Hana-chan? I think he is dumb, Naruto thought before she could answer. No, Hana said with anger, but she was still going to beat him up for his perverseness and stupidity. But she gave up on that as she stared at Naruto, and as she did so she felt like she was going to die. She saw a small flash, an illusion or something, of Naruto unsheathing his sword and cutting her in half before she could even move. All Naruto had done though was to grip his sword and ready himself for a fight. Hana fell down on the ground sweating and panting. Hey, what happened? Are you okay? Naruto asked as he went up to her. I'm fine, she managed to say. Forgive me, Naruto, let's continue the mission. Alright, Naruto said cheerfully. End flashback. After that, you would think that Hana would be distancing herself from Naruto or at least be more on guard around him, but she was the opposite. She followed his every move instead and didn't complain about Naruto's perverted comments or actions, such as when he reads his Ika in front of them. He had yet to make more perverted comments about her, which she was thankful for, but deep down that was starting to irritate her. Was she no good anymore? The mission was completed and all they had to do now was bring the item back to Konoha. It turned out the item was a custom-made pipe that the Hokage had ordered for himself. The squad was happy that they could complete the mission easily and did not find it strange that the item was ordered by the Hokage. Naruto, however, was furious and vowed that he would get Hiruzen back for this. Just as they had started leaving Oita village, trouble seemed to have found Naruto once again, or maybe it is Naruto finding trouble. They were now witnesses to some kind of kidnap attempt or hostage situation as they saw two big men with black cloaks with red clouds on them stand beside a blonde girl who wore black and purple clothes. The girl, who looked to be around Naruto's age, had been tied with ropes around her legs and arms. The tied-up girl was Niyugito, a Jinchuriki of Kumo. She contained the two tails. She is way older in the manga, but in my story she is 14, same as Tayuya, both 1 year older than Naruto. The others had no idea what was going on, but Naruto had his suspicions. He had heard of these guys. He did not know who these two were, but he knew what organization they belonged to. He had gotten this information the same way he found out about who his father was, which was Jiraiya, who liked to tell things he shouldn't when he is drunk. They were still a safe distance away from them, so they wouldn't notice them anytime soon unless they make some huge noises. What should we do, Captain? Kiba asked. Are we saving the girl? Hana asked. Naruto was about to answer as he did a hand sign hidden from their view. Those two are S-ranked criminals, Naruto said in a low tone as everyone's eyes widened in surprise. What? No way. How do you know that? Kiba asked. I have a very good source of information, Naruto explained as he did another hand sign, again hiding it from the others. Naruto, you are strong, right? Hana said. Can you save her? Naruto shook his head and said, no, we can't do anything about this, we are heading back to Konoha. But Captain, Midori said, not wanting to leave that girl here with those criminals. I said we are returning, that is an order. Naruto said in a serious tone. 5 minutes later, Naruto had earlier created a shadow clone that he switched places with and then hid himself and stayed back. The shadow clone was now leading his squad back to Konoha while keeping a fast pace. Naruto needed them to get back to Konoha as fast as possible, so there would be no rest for them this time. Naruto only wished that Ero Sennin had decided to stalk him this one time when he needed him. He knew he could not win this fight, but he just had to save that girl. She was like him after all. I'm going to need your help, Naruto spoke inwardly without getting any answer as he walked onto the rather large grass field area where the Akatsuki were still standing. I told you to cut her legs off, Kakuzu scolded his partner Hidan, since she had managed to run away from them earlier before they captured her again this far away from Kumo. Jashin-sama does not accept beating little girls, Hidan growled, do it yourself. I told you to do it, Kakuzu yelled back, but both of them stopped arguing and instead focused on the person that had walked into the grass field. They took in his appearance. He walked closer to them. He was wearing almost only dark blue clothes. He had blonde short spiky hair and had a sword hanging down next to his leg as it was attached to a belt on his waist. Kakuzu focused on two things, the blonde hair and the whisker marks, while Hidan focused on the sword. When Naruto was close to enough that they could speak to him without yelling, Hidan asked Kakuzu, should I kill him? Just who? Naruto said, slowly grabbing his sword, grinning with a sick smile. Are you going to kill? He quickly used a shunshin, making it look like he teleported next to Hidan and cut with his sword, holding it straight with the pointy front going straight through Hidan's throat. Shunshingiri, teleportation/an, a similar technique to Haraishingiri, flying thunder god / the latter is way faster. The strength of the attack was enough to part Hidan's head from the rest of his body, and Naruto was actually surprised that this supposed S-class ninja didn't dodge his attack. Hidan, you fool, Kakazu said, kicking his body. Come on, cut it out, I am hurting enough with my head being cut off. Naruto heard the cut off head speak, then laugh at him. You think you can kill me? Hidan, take a closer look at that kid, Kakazu said with a scowl. I already figured out he is that bounty hunter you hate, Hidan said, talking about the rumored Senju bounty hunter, which was Naruto, but that was not what Kakazu meant. No, the blonde hair, the whisker marks, and the age. How many people do you think fit that profile? Kakazu explained. Get to it already, Kakazu, and sew me back to my body. He is the Kyuubi Jinchuriki, Kakazu said as he looked at Naruto. Since you walked right into us, we will gladly take you with us along with the two tails. Naruto did not answer, instead he focused on his plan. First he needed to get the girl away from the two of them. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, Naruto said, and formed the hand sign to create 10 clones of himself. Naruto and his clones all threw smoke bombs around Kakazu and Hidan, and then the clones, who also was armed with swords, attacked Kakazu at the same time to give Naruto the time he needed to carry Yugito away from there. Just as Naruto thought, his clones had not managed to do anything to Kakazu, and all of them had been defeated as he had gotten out from the grassy area and hiding behind a tree. He created another clone and had it run away while carrying Yugito. Naruto then walked back into the grassy area. Meanwhile, with Naruto's squad, who had just entered Fire Country, Midori Uho, Naruto's clone said, gaining her attention and kind of pissing her off at the same time. She hated that nickname. The old monkey told us you are the vice captain, so as the captain I am giving you the last order, which is to get this squad back to Konoha, he finished before disappearing in a puff of smoke. Hi, Midori answered. A clone, Hana said in surprise. When did he? Don't tell me that bastard. Kiba said angrily, looking back the way they came. There is nothing we can do, we can't refuse an order from a superior officer. Remember Hokage-sama told us he had the same authority as a Junin, Hana said that, but she really wanted to go back and drag Naruto back. She was starting to like the little knucklehead. Midori nodded to Hana. We should go. Kiba stomped his foot on the ground in anger and yelled, if he dies I am going to kill him. With Naruto's clone heading towards the land of frost. Who are you and why are you helping me? Yugito asked as Naruto's clone ran at max speed. He had thrown her over his shoulder earlier, the same way he had carried Kurenai and her team a week ago. I'm nobody and I saved you for no reason, Naruto answered in a whisper. Where are you taking me? Yugito asked, fearing for the worst. Kumo, Naruto answered quickly, looking at her Kumo forehead protector. You are from Kumo, right? Yugito nodded and Naruto smiled at that, and they kept going northeast towards the land of frost, which you had to pass through to get to the land of lightning and then Kumogakure. Now with Yugito out of the way, Naruto was free to let go without risking her getting hit by his techniques. Taju Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, Naruto said, creating around 500 solid clones that took up all the space in the grassy area surrounding the two Akatsuki. Kakazu had sewed Hidan's head back to his body during the time Naruto was hiding. They were both now using taijutsu to get rid of some of the clones as they kicked and punched through them. Bunshin Daibakua, Naruto's clones had all charged the two and exploded while surrounding them. Meanwhile, the real Naruto stood in the back. It took almost a minute for the smoke to disappear that the huge explosion had caused. Standing in the middle where the two Akatsuki members had been before was now 4 dark, shadowy-looking creatures surrounded by fire that had lit on the grassy ground. Hidan stood at the same spot he had been before, but this time he did not have a single scratch on him. His partner Kakazu was not shirtless, but his appearance had changed a lot. He did not look human anymore. His whole body was connected by something that looked like wire or thread. The thread stuck out from his mouth and other body parts. I'm going to kill him, Hidan said, swinging his red triple-bladed scythe above his head with a maniacal laugh. This is my kill, Kakuzu said in his stern voice, don't get in my way. Meanwhile, Naruto was gathering Kurama's chakra and soon had red-orange chakra surrounding him with one tail. Naruto had a crazy expression as he smiled at them, then yelled, let's make it a beautiful death. And charged right at Hidan, swinging his sword at him repeatedly while Hidan blocked with his scythe. The four shadow-looking creatures attacked them with water, fire, lightning and wind attacks, which they dodged as they kept trying to hit each other with their weapons. This went on for another 20 minutes before Naruto gained the memories from the clone that was carrying Yugito. The clone had brought her close to the border between the land of hot water and land of frost. Naruto had once again unknowingly healed Yugito enough that she could travel the rest by herself without problem. All Naruto had to do now was to stall these two enough to give Yugito the time to get to the land of lightning. After jumping high up the air to dodge a fire attack coming from one of the shadows and then a replacement technique to dodge a lightning attack from another, Naruto bit his thumb. Kuchio's no jutsu, Naruto said, and after that summoned two huge toads, which was Gamabunta and Gameiken. I need your help, guys, Naruto said, standing above Gameiken. I will do my best, but I might screw up. I am bit ungraceful, Gameiken said. Gamabunta scowled more than usual. You will have to buy me tons of sake for this, brat. Sure thing, boss, Naruto agreed quickly while thinking, if I am able. Gamabunta and Gameiken got to work right away as they focused on the four shadow creatures, giving Naruto the chance to put his focus on Hidan and Kakuzu. I'm going to kill him, Kakuzu said, having had enough of Naruto's stalling. No, he is mine, Hidan immediately fought back. Not only is he in Jinchuriki, he is also that half-assed wannabe bounty hunter I hate. This is my kill, Kakuzu growled. Let's see who kills him first then, Hidan taunted. Naruto grinned with a sick smile. He had accepted that he was going to die, but at least he had completed the mission he was ordered to do and kept his squad safe. But his real mission was to save Yugito. Call him a chivalrous bastard, he just couldn't leave that girl with these guys. Naruto's features started changing as his teeth and nails grew and his whiskers darkened as the second chakra tail formed behind him. Naruto charged right at Kakuzu with high speed and did a two-handed slam of his sword into Kakuzu's shoulder with the goal of cutting Kakuzu into two. Daishinkan, Great Dragon Shot. Kakuzu had hardened himself with a stone technique and blocked the whole attack except for the shock wave that it had caused. The ground around them had split from the shock wave, but even so Kakuzu stood there smirking without having taken any damage at all. Wasting no time, Hidan charged at Naruto once again, giving him no other option than keep dodging his constant scythe attacks. Gameiken and Gamabunta had attempted and succeeded in hitting the shadowy creatures many times now, but every time it would appear as if they took no damage and get right back into attacking them. The shadowy creatures had also attacked them in return, and the toads, actually being living things that are not immortal with one weak point, had taken damage and could not keep this up for too much longer. After Kakuzu had hardened his whole right arm and slammed Naruto down into the ground with a powerful punch, Hidan had kicked him in his jaw and sent him flying up the air. The shadowy creatures with lightning and fire attacks had attacked him at the same time as he was mid-air. After that, Naruto had started giving up and 5 more tails quickly formed around him and his whole appearance changed. He now looked more like a mini version of the Kyuubi than himself. That was the time Gamabunta and Gameiken decided to take their leave. Once they got back, they quickly sent word to Konoha via a messenger toad to tell them what was going on. Meanwhile, in Konoha, Hokage office. Are they ever going to stop? Hiruzen thought with a big sigh as he looked over the ninjas arguing in his office. One was Jiraiya, who wanted Naruto to become his apprentice. The other was Kakashi, who wanted to kick Sasuke out of his team and have Naruto replace him. These two kept fighting about this and had knocked each other out several times already and not left the Hokage office for a few days. The third person was Sarutobi Asuma, who had told them that he was happy about his team but demanded the fourth person to reconsider her request. The fourth person was Yuhi Kurenai, who had demanded that the teams needed to change. She had thought it was unfair that Kakashi had gotten the genius Uchiha Sasuke as well as Uzumaki Tayuya, who she wanted for her squad. But the biggest reason was now Kakashi even wanted Naruto on his team, and that was the breaking point. Naruto would be on her team or no team at all. Enough, Jiraiya-sama. You will take Sasuke and I will have Naruto on my team, Kakashi yelled. Who the is Sasuke, you disrespectful little brat? Jiraiya yelled back. Kurenai, please reconsider. I don't think anything good would come out of a roster change, Asuma pleaded. Shut up, Asuma. Kurenai answered with a tick mark formed above her eye. I'm getting too old for this shit. Hiruzen thought with a sigh, looking out of the window. Now where is that pipe I ordered? Back with Naruto, who had entered his mindscape. Good, keep going, give into your anger. Kurama cheered as Naruto walked closer to the cage and the seal. Rip the seal apart and let me take care of those two outside, Kurama said with a grin as Naruto was